See how well you can dangle, arms dangling, eventually the spine and hips dangling. Of course, that takes good old-fashioned leg strength, because the knees will have to be unlocked and bent a tiny bit. And until you have good stamina and strength here, you can't really hang out. So at the very beginning, at the very least, you want to start that way. You need to adjust yourself. Just notice when you do have to lock up and come up, notice that and realize the strength isn't there yet, the endurance isn't there yet, and you need to build that with lots of Tai Chi, lots of Tai Chi squats, bend your knees more when you're doing your Tai Chi to build up that strength and stamina so you can actually dangle the spine and hips. So dangling and connecting to the ground. Dangling with gravity. And let the ground push back up through your structure. And as far up as you can track it. Eventually be able to, as the body opens, it becomes transparent. Cultivating transparent body is a huge part of the physical cultivation. And then you're able to bring, the chi is able to flow more freely throughout the body, and other forces like the ground force are able to travel through a transparent vehicle, an empty vessel. So there's that developing that transparency, emptiness, openness, softness, and openness. So that's half of it, developing that transparent body. So we can come further and further up. And then also the ting, or the awareness, the sensitivity to be able to track that, how far it can get, where it does get stopped and blocked. So dangling with gravity and letting the ground push back up through the body, noticing whatever you can notice as far as how far that goes. Doesn't matter how far you can notice it. What matters is that you notice it. Oh, I can only feel that maybe up to my mid-shins. Or maybe ground force isn't an experience for you yet. I just feel the pressures on the bottom of my feet. Well, what's good is you can notice the pressure on the bottom of your feet. Like ting, that's inner awareness and sensitivity. So you have some ting, and then that's something that we continually develop, cultivate. So we cultivate a better vehicle, and we cultivate the awareness to work with that vehicle. Hang out and breathe. Release tensions consciously on the out breath. Dangle more freely, more heavily. And now you can't even collapse if you wanted to, if you're letting the ground push back up. But back up very, very finely vertically. What I mean by that is you might feel pressure in the bottoms of your feet, and you might feel the ground pushing back up into your feet, maybe a bit higher. But even if you can sense that to a certain degree, it's easy for it to splat out. So let's say you feel it to a certain place, let's say mid-shins. It may not always be simply that you're blocked from there up. It could be it gets up vertically, cleanly vertically, and then it starts to splinter and fracture and lead out. So that pristine, sharp verticality, the efficiency. So it's just like water coursing through a channel, and the water's splashing over that channel, and a lot of it's being dissipated and lost. Or if you have a hose, garden hose, a lot of holes, and so the water is going through to a certain extent, but there's a lot of bleed through. Very inefficient. A lot of it's being lost, being bled out, it's being dissipated. So that very clean, sharp verticality is like having that hose that's integrated. It's not compromised, it's not fractured, it's not split. Or having a river or a channel, again, that's very smooth and very clean. It's not having little areas that break away, and it's not a rough shape, so everything moves cleanly and efficiently. So that's that verticality. Can I bring the ground force up, but also up very cleanly, very finely, in a sense, very narrowly, in that it's not meandering or it's not splatting out. Very sharp. Dangling, very consciously dangling. Imagine that elastic, a rubber string, like a Halloween skeleton, just dangle from it. And then feel the pressure on the bottoms of the feet. And have a sense that even intellectually, if you can't track it very high, very up, very far upward, just know, even intellectually, that it's not just the pressure moving up flatly like this. You want it moving up sharply and finely. Much cleaner, much more efficient. Press into the ground a little bit, like a little bounce, to make it more clear and more obvious to our mind and our nervous system that the ground pushes back. So don't try to jump up. It's like you're standing on a scale, right? A scale, and you can make yourself weigh like 300 pounds by pushing down. You don't look for the 300-pound kind of thing by pushing down to come up. You're just doing the pushing down part. Just pushing down, and then sense how the ground doesn't let you go down. As much as you press down, the ground pushes back up through you. So that just kind of increases that pressure, increases that sensation, might give the mind more to grab onto, more to work with. Then after you press down, see if you can stay with that feeling coming to one degree or another up through the body, very sharply, very vertically. Releasing the abdomen is really important. That helps clear the major junction. This midsection, lower back, and abdomen is a major junction, and that's where we can get everything stuck. That's what separates upper and lower body. So a huge part of getting rid of that crossroads, where things get stuck, straightening, lengthening the lower back, releasing the abdomen. So we need that shape and we need that release to get upper and lower body as one piece, and to allow chi, and in this case as well, ground force, to move between those two. So there isn't two segments, just one unified piece. Hanging the tailbone, physically releasing the abdomen. Press down. As you press down, feel that force pushing up through the body. The return wave. Press down, there's a return wave. It's physics. We just get better at sensing it. Our ting increases. We get better at being able to bring that through as the body opens, becomes more transparent. But it's physics, it's happening. And now if I push down, that's 300 pounds right there, that is technically, officially, physics-wise, going up through my body. Can I get better at sensing that and how far I can bring it up before it's splattered out or before it reaches too much denseness and stops because the body is dense and tight? So releasing the abdomen is a huge part of it. Getting the right shape is a huge part of it. And that should also accentuate and amplify the experience of your arms just dangling like loose ropes. We're getting a stronger sense of that, stronger sensation of arms just dangling. You see my arms rocking and moving. Obviously, I'm not doing that on purpose. That's just a natural reverberation of force through my body, in this case, through the arms. So again, the movement of the arms is another indication that the ground is obviously pushing back. I'm not doing this, you're not doing this, but now consciously, Notice the arms being rocked, shaked, vibrated. That's a manifestation of the ground giving back, ground force moving up through your body. Otherwise, your arms wouldn't be moving. So that might be helpful getting, oh yeah, there is ground force coming into my upper body because it's reaching my arms. And then if it's ground force is actually moving my arms, maybe I can intend that to be even finer, sharper, more efficient, and more vertical. So it goes up into the head, to the crown. Release the abdomen, relax the feet, let the feet be spread out as you push down. So we want not to have the tendency to crunch our feet. That could be a normal tendency, right? We tighten our feet as we push into the ground. That's a normal tendency. Again, we want the ground force, the increasing ground force to actually open the feet. Open the feet. Let more force come up and through. So clenched feet, it's going to stop that transference of force. It's going to restrict and make less efficient that transference and mobility of ground force, kinetic energy. So the feet relax and open, the body relaxes and opens, and we create a very, very vertical, fine line. And you get better and better, again, tracking the body, being very sensitive and where the body is at, what's happening inside the body. One thing that eventually you'll get clear about is where your body is stopping that transference of force. Is it the lower back at that main junction? Is it the mid back between the shoulder blades where a lot of tension is there? Certainly for almost everybody, it's going to be the neck, the back of the neck. That's going to be a major restriction. And the return wave, it's like that river course. The river course way has constricted or it's a very sharp turn. So the efficiency of the water movement is greatly affected and it helps adjust. So if I feel that limiting effect of the curvature of the neck, of that return wave, it becomes a self-addressing, self-correcting mechanism within my body, specifically the neck, to allow that return wave to continue moving and moving freely. One foot in front of the other. Or use. And now exaggerate, just like we did the bounce here, exaggerate the press here. Press down the front leg, exaggerate it. Press, press, and have it kind of shoot you back. The press down, sends me back. I bounce down, press down, sends me forward. Press down, sends me back. So a sharper press, like a bounce. Same thing we're doing here, but it's one leg at a time. And also what you're working is eventually it's not so much pushing down, it's releasing down, dropping the weight. We call it, okay in the beginning, if it just actually do a press or a push, that's a start. But eventually you open this up. It's an empty vessel, it's an empty tube, it's a pipe, and you just intend a free fall of your weight pressing down, and that jettisons you forward. It's a catapult. The ground is turned into a catapult. Pressing down, releasing down, releasing down. So now work with the mind, having it sense that you're not doing weight shift forward and back. All you're doing is just a releasing down or pressing down. And let yourself be catapulted back and catapulted forward. So don't over try and move yourself forward and back. And don't try to to shift your weight. Just focus on pressing down or releasing down and have that catapult you. That's the non-doing. that you are sent. Releasing the abdomen always helps. Opening this juncture. And switching your feet whenever you need to. Well, a sharp press down, or sharp release down. And having the intentional direction, intentional vector, this way or that way. So when you press down, you are sent that way. And so we don't want to press down and pop up. That means I don't have the intentional vector of where I want to go. I'm not going to do the going. I'm not going to go there, but I have the intentional vector to go there. So pressing down, I'm sent there. So without that intentional vector, you press down, you'll probably just pop up. And that's inefficient in a sense, you're not using it. You're not capturing that natural force, those natural forces to go where you want. It's like a sailboat with the sail up, but you're not having any direction. You're not angling the sail so that you can go where you want to go. The wind just blows you wherever. Ground force just popped me up. So I adjust the sail, angle the sail. So I use natural forces to go where I want to go. And then I'm sent there. I don't have to paddle. Wu Wei is I'm driven there, I'm sailed there. But I have to open the sail, which is the body, angle the sail, which is intentional vector, and then I'm sent there. I don't have to do the actual traveling. So notice if you're just popping up. So what that means is you're getting ground force, that's good, it's moving through your body, but the body's not released and relaxed a lot yet, and there isn't an intentional vector. Press down, you're sent back. Press down, you're sent forward. Release the abdomen, hang the hips to lengthen the lower back. Serving T, press down, bounce down. Press down, bounce down, a little bit more again. Acutely, sharply. Try to minimize popping up. If that happens, you just have to have more of an intentional vector laterally rather than vertically. And more, that's just a releasing down. So don't change directions, just press down, sharply release down to be sent in a different direction. So not going there. I simply release down here, I'm sent. Release down here, I'm sent. Release down here, I'm sent. Not going there. Plow hands, you bring your feet a little closer, parallel or close to parallel, and you just press down to send you, press down to send you. Again, if you're popping up, you need more of a lateral vector, intentional vector. So a big part of this is developing, just releasing, falling, dropping. And that's going to take a while to get. So you just have that intention, soften the body, but open the body, empty the body to allow a falling. But in the beginning, it's a pushing or a pressing. And ultimately, one just a release, just a release, just a release down. It's like you cut the string or the rope of a bucket, and the bucket just free falls. Cut the string, the weight just free falls. And that sends the direction, sends the body in that new direction. Notice any ensuing tightness when you press down, consciously go the other direction. Release it open, release it outward. So we're trying to, as best we can, Empty and open the body, not tightening in the midst of that intention and action. Opening as best we can, dropping, opening, emptying the body, and allowing the ground to push us. So the ground is literally our motivating factor. The ground is driving us. So getting that rebound force from the ground to move us, and getting better and better and more subtle at just a releasing to captivate that return wave rather than a crude push. Just a releasing down that hip and down that leg, and let the return wave jump you into the next direction. So we're doing this more intensely or more sharply than usual, trying to get some physical sensations of that strong return wave. Release the shoulders. Bow stance, hold the ball, weight on the back. Again, same thing as we did before, release down, but now it's going to be serving T or parting horse's mane, release down to send you into a drifting orbit. Pressing, releasing down the front leg. So I say orbit because it's like drifting once you're initially jettisoned. So when you press down one leg, have that intentional vector in that lateral direction. Press down and then just drift to the next endpoint. Don't put yourself there. Don't go there. I press or release down, and then I'm drifting to the next endpoint. I'm sent there by that initial propulsion, the initial catapulting, and then I just drift to the next endpoint. So everybody can get enough energy to be drifted or catapulted to the next endpoint. It's just a matter of how relaxed and soft you are in doing that. And it's just a matter of how much are you doing extra and not letting it be done for you, not letting yourself be catapulted and drifted and moved through space. Just a matter of how subtle and non-doing you can be about it. Because there's going to be a tendency of overdoing, right? Okay, press down, and then I jump here. Press down, and I bring myself back. Just hang out, dangling, releasing or pressing to the ground, and exaggerating that. And that ground force is moving through the body. Can I take that in a little bit more conscious shape and direction and movement? Once you initially drop, press, let that drift you into the next position. Notice any ensuing tightening, resisting, contracting, it's all normal stuff. And see if you can send it the opposite direction by opening outward, emptying, softening outwardly. The normal thing is inward. Even in the midst of this strong action, can you open? Can you release? Can you empty? Open. Open and release the hips. Okay. Now, let's take that into a more of a Tai Chi speed, quality, texture, slow motion. We were just doing this very sharp, releasing down, pressing down. We don't want to minimize it. We want to still activate the ground force just as actively, but now do it in slow motion, more as Tai Chi speed, and see if you can get that same kinetic energy and force but you're just doing it in slow motion. See if that allows you to release to get it, to open and release to get that return wave. And see if that gives you a little bit more allowance to just be drifted to the next position. So sharp pressing down, but really in slow motion. So same release, same dropping, same opening, but in ultra slow motion. Notice what the body does, what happens to the body, the abdomen, hips. So you imagine and feel you're doing it just as vibrantly, just as intensely, just as sharply, but it's way turned down in terms of, it's like slow motion. It's like if you have your control on your screen 5 times slower, 7 times slower, we're going like 10 times slower. In that propulsion. And notice what it does to and for the body. We slow it down 10 times or more. Same activeness, same acute release or press, but it's just.
Yeah, can I ask a question? So is there a quality in that push and release down? I notice sometimes it's like there's a continuous line of force, especially from the back foot forward. I feel that push through me. And then sometimes it is more like you say, the space, like it's like the little puff down sends you, and I don't feel this physical line through me. Are those just different qualities, or is there something more dropped about the little push that puts you more into space?
So sometimes you're feeling a line and sometimes you're feeling something different.
Like, that I feel like an unbroken line. So as I come forward, I feel like there's the ground pushes all the way through. And it's not particularly tense or anything, but the line is consistent. And then other times it's more like, I would imagine, the little bit of in space, and then you're just moved. And other than feeling the ground, I don't feel that sense of the ground pushing me forward.
And that's okay. So especially can, of course, differ from one side to the other. That's a good example of where they can be quite a different experience, or you don't have the same tracking mechanism sensitivity. Or it could just be different moves. You can really feel that line. Other moves, you don't feel that line as clearly. That's normal. And that's all okay. It's both of those are good. If you're not feeling a clear line or sensing a clear line, but that puff moves you, like moves the body as this general openness, that's just as good. So if you're feeling that I'm just popping down and there's this puff that sends me, and I'm just hanging out as I'm being drifted into the next position, that's very, very good. So let's do cloud hands, drop down, low. Here's that sharpness, very sharp. Slow it down 20 times. The same dynamic action, but 20, 30 times slow down. It forces a lot of ting, forces a lot of concentration and attention inside your body and into this mechanism you're trying to trigger, releasing or pressing down. So it forces your attention, your awareness deep in your body and deeply into this mechanism of releasing down. And every once in a while, you can remind yourself about this sharp drop or this sharp press once or twice, and then slow that down 20 or 30 times. So super slow motion. Notice what happens in different parts of the body. Serving tea. Just be drifted to the next position. Release down, press down, super slow motion to drift you back. Again, every once in a while, you might do a more obvious, sharper version that's more real. You can sense that's actually driving you forward. You're driven into the next position, and do that super slow motion. Try that with some stationary fresh knee. Try to hang out and be open as you're drifting. And as your awareness refines, you'll start to consciously become aware that you're opening and emptying the body to allow more and more of the return wave to move more and more through the body, move further and further through that empty vessel, that clarity. Okay, now just try just a little bit of walking and giving a little accentuated press into the foot, releasing down that leg, sometimes quite obvious, with the express purpose of slowly minimizing that, but you're still deriving the locomotion, the power of locomotion, purely from the ground, the bottoms of your feet. Let the foot open with each step. Each time you let the foot meet the ground and your weight goes through the foot, let the foot spread open and release, and let the ground push through you. Release the abdomen. So you'll find naturally that the knees need to be a little bit, tiny bit bent, unlocked for that transference of force. If the knees are locked or close to it, like the junction here is tight and closed, that becomes a junction that's tight and closed. So I need to have unlocked knees, just like this is unlocked and this is unlocked. Let's come back to standing. And we'll just finish by seeing how clean and clear that vertical transference of force can be up through your body. How cleanly vertical. Release the feet. Allow the pressure on the bottom of the feet to move very, very, very vertically up. Doesn't matter how far, but very, very, very vertical, not splatting out. Let the body adjust to allow that to occur in a better way.